And what's going on, Los Angeles, LAFB fam, Bruin Nation? How we doing? The Madman and Thriller back together for all of your UCLA football needs. And by critical acclaim, the man that needs no introduction, that has the exclusive red carpet on this show and on this network, the man, the myth, the legend, the one and only Silver Fox, Wayne Cook, joining us. But Wayne, I'm so happy to see you. We need some Silver Fox words of wisdom after the last couple of days. We need the enthusiasm. We need that silver touch, Wayne, after what's transpired the last couple of days. But so great to see you, and thanks so much as always for making the time.
So is it now? Do I have to say Madman and Thriller? Is that what it is now? Can I still say Jamal and Will? Am I allowed
Absolutely.
to do
That works
Absolutely.
You guys, listen. We all got knocked down. I know you guys. Listen. This is what's crazy because I've had a chance to interview players and coaches, and I was in the locker room after the game talking to coach and was on the field to just witness what happened. And I truly believe that this coaching staff of this team thought that camp happens in a vacuum. It happens for everybody. And what happens is some of the teams had to play, a heavyweight, and some of the teams got to play a lightweight. And we saw it all across the country. And a lot of the teams that had to play big-time matchups, we saw a lot more mistakes, a lot more ugly football because, you when you practice against yourselves, first of all, it's thud. You're not wrapping up. You're not taking people to the ground. Quarterbacks aren't getting hit, so they're kind of moving around the pocket with knowing that no one's going to touch them. And a lot of times, it just gives you this false sense of what you are. And that way, when you play an opponent, and you play a really good one, and let's be honest, you guys, I think Utah playing for the Big 12 championship is something I would think is going to happen. They have that conference is interesting. Because they do, there's a lot of teams in that conference that are kind of like, oh, that team could be kind of good, and that team could be kind of good. So they don't have an easy road, but when you look at that offensive line, which is one of the best in the country, they had two tackles, and remember, one of our tackles, Nico Iamaleava, was not playing. He was out. And then we made some mistakes on the edge. You guys saw that. That was a problem. We had a couple of guys that had a ton of tackles, but most of our tackles were 3 to 6 yards downfield. It was just so many chunk plays where it felt like when they had third down, it was third and short, and they got that most of the time. So we got hit in the mouth. So we went from a team that felt really good to a team that got kind of whooped. And so what's cool is you talked to DeShaun Foster after the game, and I talked to him again this week, and he said, maybe it wasn't bad that happened right now, because you learn really quickly that, all right, guys, we need to clean some things up. We need to be a team, and don't forget this too, because I got to add this too. When you have so many transfers, and a lot of teams are dealing with this, you almost want to have that preseason where you feel like you have a couple of easy games. Because Nico hadn't been here that long. The whole secondary had, guys, it was all new people. There were so many new players that were playing prominent roles that I think you almost have to expect the fact that they're not going to be great at the beginning. Now, we didn't expect to be as bad as it was because it was a good butt whooping. But it's just there's a lot of factors that worked against UCLA. So what I love is that the players in the locker room, according to everybody I talked to, were not pointing fingers. We're not saying this sucks. Why do we come here? They were like, hey, guys, what can we do to get better? And so that's been the message that I've been hearing. No one's got their head down. No one's straight. They all went back to work this week. And now you look at the schedule. UNLV, which, by the way, the line is pretty tight, right? That, they haven't really played anybody yet, but they have played 2 games and they have 2 wins. They have talk about a team with transfers, right? They've got a whole bunch of transfers. But I still think this is a better matchup and an opportunity to get things right. And one more thing, and I know I'm rambling here. People can say what they want to say. I don't know if you guys have been seeing it, but the whole Tennessee, UCLA, Joey Aguilar, They played totally different games. Utah, I bet you Utah would whoop Syracuse. But the idea is that Joey Aguilar looked good, but he had some overthrows too, just like Nico did. But Joey also had a better offensive performance, an offense that had the ball a lot more often. He had a much better opportunity to get into a rhythm. If you watch Nico, yeah, he had about 3 overthrows, and a couple were just barely overthrows. That were big plays that could have really helped. We didn't run the ball very good, and by the whole second part of the game, it was like they knew we were going to be throwing the ball most of the time. But you saw his legs, you saw his scrambling ability. For a guy that tall, he's pretty agile. And so you can see the promise there. So for all the people that are like, oh, he's terrible, like he's, you guys need to go take a hike. He's got talent. He's got good footwork. Yes, I said this even in camp. He has a tendency to drop his arm, which leads to the ball sailing. And a lot of quarterbacks, like I get so frustrated. I watched the whole Arch Manning game the other day. And I'm like, God, I go, how does a guy with that much like family quarterback play have such he struggled with his mechanics. He's throwing sidearm. His feet aren't set. I was like blown away by that. And yet now that I watch football as much as I do, I'm like, does anybody step into throws anymore? They don't really let guys kill you like they used to when I played it. We were taught to step into our throws. And so it's a problem now. Guys throw sidearm. They're shooting fadeaway jumpers all day, and it's not good. Nico doesn't do that. He does step into his throws, but when his arm comes down, sometimes on those deeper crossing routes, he'll sail the ball. It's something I saw in camp too. It's something I know that he probably wants to work on. But I saw enough to where I feel good about the future with him because I think he's got a ton of talent.
Wayne, let me ask you this before we, let's sort of continue to look back before we look forward here and before we sort of preview UNLV. There's a lot to work on. I think the story of opening night, you've had such unique vantage point with the team, your insights, your experiences. What are you anticipating are the things that will see improvement very, very quickly? And what are the things that you anticipate are going to take longer over the course of this season? Maybe are some more systemic challenges, if you will.
So I really like the two coordinators. I like the addition. I love their passion. I love the way they coach. Kaika Malloy did an amazing job last year. He's got a lot of new pieces, a lot of new coaches on both sides of the ball. From what I saw in this game, and again, the way that when you take a physical team and you add Dampier at quarterback and Parker and then Snowden and all these guys that are doing what they were doing, I was like, this is Utah. They're not running at you with this great all line. They're challenging, they're stretching you with speed and athleticism. It made in my brain, I was going, this is really scary for everybody that plays Utah because you have a team that can win at the line of scrimmage all the time, and yet they're beating you with athletes also. I'm like, the quarterback was like 21 for 25.
Yeah.
And he's not a spectacular thrower by any stretch of the imagination, but when you're running the ball like that, like, oh my gosh. So my answer is going to be, as much as I like Ikaika Malloy, I have more confidence that the offense with more opportunities is going to show more quicker. I think, I think Mikey looked like he was a yard or two away from a really big game because he had a couple of opportunities to make huge plays, and we just missed. I think that Anthony Woods is a player that made me go, ooh. And I noticed him in camp too. I'm like, he's got that extra burst. I love the way he caught the wheel route out of the backfield and kind of lowered his shoulder and ran over a guy. But he had a couple of other runs. I think he only carried 3 times. But he had a run in the second half to the right that he put on the Jets a little bit. And I was like, okay. I don't think we saw enough of Javian Thomas to really know in Jalen Berger. It was a rough go, but Woods kind of popped for me. Mikey, again, I thought was close. I would have liked to have seen Quasi, maybe make another catch that was kind of important because I thought that was an excellent throw by Nico because he had to drop his arm on that one and throw it in between defenders, and he did a great job, and that ball should have been caught. I feel like the offensive line, and this is where people are going to disagree with me, I think they were okay. I don't think it was horrible. I just don't think they had enough opportunity. And when you give the defense a chance to pin when you're going up against Morgan Scalley, and who's been a legend for Utah forever, when you let him know that they're playing with a lead, and you only have, and they just had a 21 play drive, the first drive of the second half.
Yeah.
I mean, what are you going to do when you're Tino Sinceri?
Yeah.
Your whole game plan is kind of out the window at that point. You're just trying to do things to catch up. You can't have that run pass. You can't keep a defense honest. So like I don't think that's fair really to look at that, because that puts an offensive line in a horrible situation. So I feel better about the offense. I think the defense has to prove something to me. I thought we had some linebackers that had a lot of tackles, but they were all like, 3, 4, 5 yards downfield. I mean, they weren't at the line of scrimmage like we'd like to see them. So we lost the edge so many times. And I'm watching the film and I'm like, why are you attacking that shoulder? Or even the middle of those tackles were so good that I watched them turn whoever had contained over and over and over again the whole game. I'm like, you're doomed when you do that, and it was a problem. So I have faith in Malloy. I think he's got more work to do because I think those guys have a lot more to prove. I think offense they'll be better this week. I think the offense is going to put up some points because let's do this. Last year's offense was horrific.
Yeah.
Well, we were worse than this one, right? It wasn't 18 points a game; it was 10. So, and I swear I would bet my life the offense is going to be better this year. So we're going to Vegas. I'm still betting on it. Yeah.
I love it. Well, perfect segue there, Wayne and Will. I'll start with you. See, I'm calling you Will, in Wayne's honor here of the preview UNLV. Interesting matchup, Will, in terms of what we're facing here. Wayne, you alluded to it. UCLA comes in only a 2-point favorite. It's a really tight line. UNLV, a very interesting team. They're coming in 2-0, an extra game, but a very light schedule. They seem to be, in many ways, one of the darlings in the non-Power Four in the offseason. New coach Dan Mullen, are they a dark horse to potentially get an at-large bid to the college football playoff? A lot of conversations there. Over the course of these first two games, though, Colandrea, their quarterback, the transfer from Virginia, he's shown some flashes. He's kind of won that job from Alex Orji outright, who was the transfer from Michigan. And then they got a pair of real nice weapons. It seems like Jaden Thomas, their running back, who's 212 yards rushing over 2 games, really showed a lot of burst. And then Jaden Bradley, their wide receiver, 256 yards receiving on 21 yards per catch these first 2 games. But they really struggled week 1 against Idaho State, had to sort of pull that game out right at the very end. Got a little bit more distance against Sam Houston State, but I don't think any of those games were particularly impressive. And defensively over these 2 games, they're giving up 440 yards per game. So, Thrill, I'll pass it over to you. What are you expecting now moving forward in this UNLV game, and how are you seeing things shake out?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it. Dan Mullen is a very, very good coach. We've talked about it. He had Mississippi State with Dak Prescott as the number 1 team in the country back in 2015. When's the last time that happened for Mississippi State? I'd love to hear it. And then you look at what he did at Florida. You really look back. Everyone talks about the last year in 2021 when he flamed out. Let me tell you what his total record was as a Gator. It's 34-15, including 21 wins in the first 2 years there. The only year he was under 500, he was 5-6 in 2021. So this guy can flat out coach. I'm shocked it took him this long to get another, head coaching gig within college football, because he went from the pinnacles of the SEC out to UNLV. So it'll be interesting to see what he does. You mentioned it, man. Jaden Thomas, I think, is a guy we're going to have to really watch, because I'm looking for improvement with this run defense. That's what we need to see as a fan base to kind of feel a little bit better about what we're doing. Jaden Thomas is a legit baller, though, when it comes to the running back position. That Idaho State game, he had 10 carries for 147 yards and 3 touchdowns. He's currently sitting at an 11.2 yard per carry average right now. That's a little more than a first down every time he touches the rock. So Jaden Thomas, very talented. Colandrea, he's kind of that solid quarterback. He's moving the football down the field. Clearly has that favorite like you're talking about with Jaden Bradley on the outside. And the guy that I'm looking for on defense, yes, they've had their problems with defense, but find me a player that's done more for his defense than Amaris Smith. 2 sacks last game against Sam Houston State and a pick six, 52 yards to the house. He had a pick in the first game against Idaho State. He is leading the team in sacks, tackles, and interceptions. Find me someone that's doing more than what he's doing there. So what I want to see from UCLA, I just want to see tangible improvement when it comes to the run defense. I want to see our guy Nico get a little bit more comfortable out there, really make some throws, get our guy Quasi involved. He's talking about Bolitnikov. In order for him that to happen, you need to give him the rock and see what he can do. We didn't throw him the ball till the third quarter last week. Let's get a little bit more of that going for UCLA. And then, yes, you talked about a little bit earlier, Wayne, Javion Thomas, the Jet. We heard all of the rumors when it comes to the kid out in fall camp. What does DeShaun Foster do best as a coach? He takes these running backs and turns them into NFL prospects. Give me the rock, Javion Thomas. I want to see what he can do out in the open field. So those are my 3 kind of big components going into week 2 against Dan Mullen. And it's at the Death Star, right? It's at the Raiders Stadium in Las Vegas. I mean, some people call it the Roomba. Some people call it the Death Star. It's a tough place to play at. So I'm excited. It's going to be a cool environment. If the Bruins fans are traveling out to Vegas, what else do you need? You got an excuse to go to Vegas this weekend to watch the Bruins. Have yourself a blast out there and be loud and be proud for the blue and gold.
No, love it, Will. And Wayne, over to you, kind of on that preview as well. And I'll add just one nugget. Will did a great job, kind of talking about the stars of UNLV. Amaris Brown, as Will mentioned, leads the team in sacks, interceptions, tackles, and chatter. I would say there was some interesting chatter from Amaris Brown about Nico Iamaleava. So it's making this game, I think, a little bit more spicy than normal. So, Wayne, just your thoughts on the preview here with UNLV.
Well, let's. There's a lot there. First of all, Will, well done. The players you mentioned would be the players I would have mentioned too. I mean, those are the guys to watch out for. But again, this is a game that UCLA should historically win in the trenches. We just put a Utah team where we lost in the trenches, but this is when you play a team like UNLV, when you play a team like New Mexico, you got to win up front. And when you do that, the rest of it takes care of itself. All the skilled guys, Javion Thomas is going to play much better when the offensive line is moving the ball and we're able to run and pass, and you'll see this offense take off. I will mention, and I'm curious because I don't know, Idaho State. What conference do they play in? What division are they? Who?
They're FCS, Wayne. So
okay,
yeah.
Okay. What about Sam Houston?
Same.
And they struggled, and those weren't exactly pretty games. So
right.
We can put lipstick on a pig here, but it's not like UNLV being 2-0. This is the problem with this time of the year. We overreact to a team that gets that loses a game against a really good opponent, and we overreact to a team scoring, getting wins against nobodies. And it's let's put it this way: most of the teams in the country, we won't even pay attention to Indiana until their 4th game, probably. Because they're non-conference. I don't even know where those schools are unless they're states in the name.
It's rough. It's rough.
No, I know it should, but that's like a lot of schools. So it's the world of your record matters more than your strength of schedule. And hopefully, with the SEC going to a 9-game schedule in the future, it's going to kind of change some of those things because it'll be a little bit more of a level playing field, and some of those non-conference games will actually matter. So teams will be willing to schedule those again. But the idea that what you guys are talking about, the sound bite, I heard the full version of it, and it's really not as bad. I mean, I hope that they just show Nico the part that makes it sound like, he's not that great. But if you listen to the full version, I'm a history teacher, you guys. I teach propaganda. And I always like to point out to people that we can take sound bites from interviews, but if we don't listen to the whole interview, we're not getting the truth. And he really didn't say anything that disparaging. What he was saying is, I'm used to playing against players of that level.
Right.
And so it's not like he's going to be shocked by going up against a 5-star guy because he was doing that before. So I don't want to steal anybody's thunder because people love to get mad, but there's a little lesson to everybody out there. Just because someone said something, if you don't listen to the whole thing in context, sometimes it's a little blown out of proportion. But either way, I've always laughed at that stuff anyway, because if somebody tries to play harder because someone said something mean to them, then there's something wrong with that person. You should always play as hard as you can in every game you play. You shouldn't need extra motivation. So if I'm Nico, I'm 11 for 22 for 136 yards. And I'm sitting there going, I'm better than that. What's really cool about Nico is if you guys paid attention, he was playing as hard as anybody on the field.
Yeah.
He wasn't playing like a prima donna 5-star. He was running around. He was taking hits. He was trying to make plays. He did not, I guarantee you, he did not, because there was a moment where you're like, just put in Luke Duncan. Put in Luke, give him some reps, let Nico, because he's been hit enough in this game, like the game's over. And I guarantee you that's not what Nico wanted. Nico wanted to keep playing football. So that's the part of it that gets me going. Like when I see a player that's a leader, not a prima donna, he's not pouting about his stats. He knew his game stats weren't very good. 136, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Do you think that's a Heisman Trophy first-round draft pick type stat line? Not even close, right?
No.
So Nico's wants to be better and wants everybody around him to be better too. So if he takes that little soundbite out of context and uses it for motivation, good for him. You do whatever you can. I mean, coaches have been doing that forever. So, again, they need to bounce back, but I promise you this is an opponent that you pointed out their struggles and how much they've been struggling on defense. This offense under Tino Sunseri, they're going to bounce back, and they're going to put up some points this week.
Wayne, I'm going to keep it with you, and then Thrill go with you. Give me a score, Wayne. How do you see this game playing out? Score, and who are you seeing as kind of how the ebb and the flow of the game is going to be, and who's going to be your sort of breakout performer this week?
My confidence has been shaken a bit, like the rest of us, right? Like I have to be honest with you. I thought the defense was going to be better than it was, and so I'm a little anxious about that. Like and there is some talent on this UNLV team, so like I need to see those guys tackle. I think UCLA will be somewhere in the 30s, but it might be 30-something to 20-something. From what I saw last week, I think they might be able to get some points. This is a road game. It's not a long trip, but it's it is what it is there. I would love to say it'd be like 40-10, but I didn't see enough from UCLA on defense to think they're going to hold them down. But I do think the offense is going to step. There's too much talent on this offense. And again, I'll say I felt good about every position, and this is going to sound like I'm being disparaging, but like I wasn't confident with the receivers. I mean, I didn't see a Danny Farmer or a J.J. Stokes or a Freddie Mitchell or a Sean LaChapelle or I even a few years ago, like a Jake Bobo. I hadn't seen that, and so I want to see it. I want Quasi to be that. I want Mikey to be that. I want Titus to be that. We have to have the ball more to get this offense flowing, because I think that when Tino's offense is working correctly, I think those guys will start to get some balls and they'll start to get some confidence. But what I want to see is who is our receiver that can catch the ball and make someone miss. It just feels like it's been something that we've lacked for so long that, we had it with tight ends. We had Dulcich was really good at that. We had, Kyle Phillips that was really good with that. Those guys were really good. But in those days, our running backs were our most explosive players. And so like right now, I want to see which one of those running backs is going to make guys miss and maybe take one to the house. Like, because we got spoiled a little bit. We've had some players that have been able to do that, and we need to get back to that. So that's what I'm most excited about. Like finding out who's going to be the guys that are going to make plays on this offense. It can't just be Nico. It can't do it alone. It's going to be a struggle. So who's going to be the skill players that are going to step up and make some big plays?
Wayne, to that point, before throwing it over to you, Thriller, Will and I have been talking a lot about the wide receiver room. So it's really interesting that you bring that up, Wayne. And one of the thoughts we've had is, as good as Mikey Matthews is in his role at the slot, do you, need a little bit more dynamism in that first three to be able to sort of stretch the field vertically? And we really like what we see just in terms of body type and style from a Jaden Wilson. And is this sort of an opportunity, particularly with Nico's style of wanting to throw the ball further down the field? Is this sort of an opportunity for Jaden Wilson, number one? But then also number two, I think what we saw with Nico was a lack of reps, a lack of continuity of the spring. But, what Will and I were talking about is, when you're sort of having reps with 6'1", 6'2", 6'1", 6'3 guys, and then you have a rep with someone who's 5'9", to have to change your mechanics, change kind of the parabola of the ball, if you will, for the 5'9 player, does that throw you off at all? And so just want to kind of get your thoughts on all of that in terms of the receiver room. Do you feel good about Matthews starting, or do you think maybe there's an opportunity there to mix and match a bit?
No, I like Matthews. I think he proved to be very explosive in practice, and he actually caught my eye every time I watched him play. And he was wide open. You guys, you can't blame it on his height. That's a pass you have to complete. And there was a couple of them that we missed. Those are just bad throws. Here's what I'll tell you about receivers. So I played with two guys that I think were elite, really three guys. Sean LaChapelle was my very first year I started, and I got hurt. Sean LaChapelle in practice, you couldn't guard him. He was always open. He always made plays. He made the ridiculous catch. He made the easy catch, and you just knew he was really good. J.J. Stokes was the same way. He was just really good. And then I had Kevin Jordan, too, that was really good. But all those guys were great, but those first two were special. Sean ended up getting hurt that year, too. But, like, he was like, for Tommy Maddox, he went off the year before me. And JJ, those guys were unstoppable. Like, you have to, like, you want to have players that the other team has to worry about so much. You saw how much attention Smith got for Ohio State. I mean, that Texas secondary is elite. And how many times do you think they could have thrown a flag on holding in the secondary? It was like, oh my God, that's a penalty. You can't do that. But because he's so good that you just have to be preoccupied with him. Like, so we need someone to step up. Yeah, it's a team game, and you want to be able to spread the ball around the field. All those guys that you mentioned, I'm not saying that they can't be that person, right? But when you get your chance – again, you could say you're good all day, but I kind of need to see it. Like I said that about J-Mike, and I think he did okay for Florida the other day, but I'm like, make more plays. I mean, we could say he's so great because he looks good in a uniform, taller, shorter, whatever, but like make plays. So to me, that's what I'm looking for from all these guys. The players, if you want to be somebody, then be somebody. Make the plays. You want to be an elite quarterback, make the plays. You want to be that's kind of what it comes down to. That's how I was evaluated as a player. And trust me, sometimes I was really good, and sometimes I was not. Right? You make mistakes, and people will call you on it. So and that's the way it should be. It's sports. It's not easy. It's not for everybody. So I don't have the answer to your question other than I'm waiting to see. I used to say this about Logan Loya. Every time he got in the game, he made plays.
Right.
So I was kind of confused why he wasn't in the game more sometimes. I'm like, he just makes plays. That's why I'm like, I like that guy. Or you go out to practice and you watch Carson Swester and you're like, hey, that guy, why isn't he playing more? He's really good. Well,
exactly.
And then all of a sudden he gets in and you're like, see? Like I used to say that about Cam Medrano too. Like, he's really good. And then he gets in the game and you're like, Jayon Brown, he's really good. Have you watched him on special teams? And then he gets in the game and he makes plays. So, like sometimes some of these guys, it's like they're caged animals and they're just ready to get their opportunity. I'll give you a guy that I'm looking forward to maybe getting a little bit more reps, Scott Taylor, the linebacker. Like, he is a big, athletic, good-looking athlete. And I'm just like, man, he might be that next one that once he gets on the field, you can't get him off. I could be wrong on that, but he has caught my eye.
Well, if he's caught your eye, Wayne, there's something there. I love that. Oh, man. So fans, keep an eye. Scott Taylor, Wayne called it here first, So, Thriller, I'll hand it over to you. Prediction, game, who are you seeing break out? What's the score? Where are you seeing this thing net out Saturday night?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with 35-24. And just to kind of piggyback off Wayne's point, I think with the wide receiver room, we were expecting to have a Caden Robinson in the room. Rico Flores, we were kind of waiting for him to come back. So the room just doesn't feel the ceiling as it should be, when we were, anticipating what the season was going to look like for UCLA. But yes, somebody needs to step up in that room. I've got Quasi as that guy, given the preseason hype and what he was able to do as a true freshman. I mean, this guy caught a massive touchdown on the road in Nebraska. How many true freshmen are doing that in that environment? So give me some Quasi, give me some of that. I'm looking for this defense to just get some stops, get some confidence back, because there was very little to go off of positively, unfortunately, on that defense in the first game against Utah. So I just want to see a tangible improvement, as I was mentioning earlier. Maybe it's our guy Scott Taylor, as Wayne was mentioned earlier. Somebody to come in there and make a play, get some tackles for a loss, get them off the field on third down, generate some pressure. Maybe it takes blitzing 6-7 guys, but find a way to get to Colangelo and get to Colangelo early. Make his life uncomfortable as a quarterback. That was a Big 12 team that has a chance to get to the college football playoff in Utah. This is a Mountain West team. Play like a Big 10 team. Get them off the field early. End this in the first half. I don't expect the defense to be perfect, especially on the road, but just make plays, get stops. What do we talk about? Bend, don't break, win the turnover battle, do little things. 35-24, UCLA gets back to 500 in week 2.
Can I just add? I just want to add because I don't want anybody to take this the wrong way. I like what you're saying about Quasi because you can see it, right? When you hear the coaches talk about him, like he's ready, right? So taking that next step is going to have to be like if we see UCLA double their plays, right? Have so many more opportunities. Like it's not going to be where there's one punt from the opponent. You're going to get the ball and one of those and the punt that they had pinned UCLA down at the 5-yard line. Right. So it was just such a Utah controlled game. Like I made the point after the 21 play drive that I thought it was one of my finer moments on the broadcast was that if Coach Whittingham went to his happy place like Happy Gilmore, it would be that drive. It would just be that's all he would imagine. But the idea is that Quasi does have a lot of talent, and we've seen it. We've seen flashes of it. Now we want to see an offense that consistently, like, we need a player like last year Indiana had Surratt, the receiver. We need someone to kind of step up and be that guy because he jumped off the film when I watched them that he was just so consistent and so good for them. And I know he came with them from JMU. But he was a guy like and you mentioned Rico, like I don't know how close he is.
Sounds like October from what we're hearing.
Yeah, so, and one of the things that he had the ability of, he's not necessarily the fastest or the biggest guy, but people lose track of the fact that receivers that have a knack for knowing where the ball is, they have a knack for knowing where the space is, they have a knack of just separating. Like we could see that when he was healthy. So that could be a very nice addition because sometimes the problem is some of these receivers have the body and they have the speed, but they don't have that. They don't have the ball skills. They don't have the timing. They don't have the judgment. They don't have the natural hands. And so they're going to struggle. And that's why a lot of these guys move around a lot. And we wonder why, well, they never lived up to what they look like, right? Or their measurables. And that's because they just don't have that. So I think Quasi does. And I think he has a chance to be really, really good. And I think we'll see more of him as the UCLA offense gets into more of a rhythm.
No, really well said, Wayne and Will. I'm sort of with you guys, very aligned. I think this is going to be 34-27 UCLA. Okay. I think this is a game where I see Nico going north of 300 yards and sort of peppering the ball around. And we get to see that arm talent. We get to see those mechanics. We get to see him keep a defense off balance. And I think this is also a game, to your guys' point, like this is a quasi statement game. You know, like in the offseason when you say, I'm going for the Biletnikoff, I'm going for all of these lofty goals. Now here you are on paper, wide receiver one, Amaris Brown, their best player as a defensive back who's sort of put himself out there. This is a one-on-one matchup, right? 1 versus 1. This is the type of game that you really want to salivate if you're Quasi Gilmer and really win that matchup to really pole vault your season. And so I'm going to give Quasi the benefit of the doubt, given just the talent and the athleticism. I think Quasi's going to get 100 yards receiving, and I think Jet is going to be able to break out here and get 100 yards rushing. I think the defense does just enough defensively. They start getting better in the second half. I think we're going to get some stops in the red zone, hold them to some field goals. And I think there's also going to be maybe an opportunity for an interception or two from the secondary. So I really like the Bruins coming out on top 34-27. We get back to 1-1 and start feeling pretty good.
Don't you guys feel like this is like a huge moment? I mean, I thought the first game mattered a lot, and it didn't go the way that you wanted it to, because even if, I don't know about you guys, but even, and this is not coach speak, this is broadcaster speak, being 3-1 going into the Penn State game is kind of where my head was at, and not because I was conceding Utah, but I thought that if there was a slip up, especially early on with so many new players, I was hoping for more of a 27-21, 27-24 dogfight, and then hopeful that if we actually do win that one, then we're starting to talk like top 25 and that type of stuff. But it didn't happen. So it almost feels like now that pressure of like, you really want this one. I mean,
huge
game. I think it's a huge game.
Yeah, you can bounce back, or you can just keep being held down by your circumstances. So this is massive across the board. We're going to need all the support we can get from the UCLA alumni on this one.
No question, Wayne. And I think, there's a comparison that's kind of being made of, hey, last year the team was 1-5, made the recovery. We're hoping for a similar recovery. But the one thing I'll say, even at 1-5 felt different than what potentially 0-2 would feel like here, to your point. And I think the 1-5 felt different because by the time you got to week 7, you saw Indiana at 5-0, 6-0. You saw LSU, right? We had that combined record of, the last 5 opponents were something like 28-3, over the course. So you still said, look, there's work to be done here, but my gosh, this was sort of a murderer schedule. This is the toughest schedule in America. Can they sort of just stick together enough to be able to turn it around? Versus 0-2, when you're playing a team that just played 2 FCS teams and you still don't quite know how good Utah is, it just feels different, to your point. So I'm totally with you. This is a huge game, both kind of, I think, inside the locker room for the team, for DeShaun, as well as I think for the outside ecosystem as well.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and again, it's funny because you look at Carson Schlesinger and Kay Medrano and Femi Oladejo, and you did feel that. You did, and even Jay Toia. And I'm not saying that the guys that replaced them didn't play well, but you really – and by the way, this wasn't a game where we really learned a lot about the secondary other than the tackling, which, when you come up in space, I don't think we were great there. But we're going to play other teams where they're going to have to cover more. So I thought, maybe even more than anything was the edge, how much we lost it. It just felt like we lacked that. So, and again, sometimes I thought we looked a little slow.
Yeah.
And and I'm going, gosh darn it. I go, it just doesn't feel like we're in. That could just be first game. Maybe guys, I don't know. I mean, maybe they're a little worn out from camp, but it just didn't feel like we were flying around. And maybe it's because there's a lot of new faces that are still learning what they're doing too, because sometimes that'll slow you down also.
Absolutely. And I think, Wayne, to your point, I think going on the road is actually a blessing here. I think, and it's almost the perfect location because it's still sort of a big venue. You feel kind of it as it's not necessarily a marquee opponent, but you're playing them kind of on the road in a very marquee stadium. And it's a close trip, but you're kind of getting away. You're getting away from maybe the energy of the Rose Bowl where, it sort of left off so negative at the end of that game. So I think you would feel maybe even a different sense of pressure if it was a second straight home game in a lot of ways. So I think that's sort of the environment is setting up nicely, hopefully for this team to be a little bit lighter in the legs, to your point, and kind of fly around a little bit more.
Well, I mean, let's the elephant in the room is the attendance.
Yeah.
It was Utah. It was a team that's going to, fight for a playoff berth. I mean, I could be wrong on that, but I think they're really, really good.
I do too.
We got to do a better job. I mean, I did a hit on the Rose Bowl on the Jumbotron before the game where I did a little breakdown of I got asked a couple questions, and I'm looking up, and there's 20,000 Utah fans right behind me booing me. And I look over on the UCLA side, and it was just so sparse. Now, it got more. I mean, more people came in, but this was 15, 20 minutes before the game started.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and then, the idiot I am, I can't resist. I said this is a game about the trenches when I was asked about the keys to the game. And I said, last time Utah was here, we whooped your butt in the trenches. They booed a little bit louder. I just couldn't resist the opportunity. But of course, I'm the one that walked out of there feeling like an idiot because I talked a little crap and it went right back in my face. But I mean, I could say this till I'm blue in the face. It does take winning for people to show up. But at the same time, if you're a true Bruin fan, let's get our butts to these games. You know, I know that, like, we don't want our players to be quitters, and yet I hear fans all the time, well, I'm giving up. I'm like, well, what does that make you? You know,
Exactly.
At some point in time, I love everybody. I love all the people that are there. Believe it or not, I see a lot of the same faces in the Rose Bowl for the last 25 years because they're loyal. And, you know, I wish more people would learn that I know it's expensive. I know parking's expensive. I know everybody has their complaints, but man, it helps the team so much when people show up. It helps us recruit when we have recruits on the field, when they see a good crowd and a good atmosphere. So, you know, hopefully UCLA wins and looks a lot better. And then when we come back and play New Mexico on a Friday night, I don't want to hear a bunch of people saying when they're complaining about players and not doing enough, and they go, but I just can't sit in traffic on a Friday. I've always said, really? Like, you think athletes should be superhuman, but you don't want to sit in some traffic to go watch a football game on a Friday night? I mean, let's go. And so I don't know if that helps or hurts, or if people are going to be mad at me for saying that, but I just am such a Bruin that I wish, and I know DeShaun Foster is too, that I wish that some of the people that are on the fence would just suck it up and let's go to these games and have a good time, bring your family, and let's have a good atmosphere at the Rose Bowl, because these players work their butts off and I feel like they deserve it.
No, so well said, Wayne. And we're three true Bruins on this show. We bleed UCLA, and Bruin Nation, we have to do our part, you know, to bring the type of season that we want, to sort of revive, you know, this sort of early season. And we have to do our part. It's everyone plays a role. Let's get out there. Let's be loud. Let's be proud, and really take to words the words that, Wayne, you just said. Well, Wayne, it's always such a pleasure. I'm going to get you out of here at a decent time. You've been the busiest man in show business tonight, you know, as the one that every UCLA content creator wants to be able to access and get your thoughts. Always so welcome. And fans, before we sign off here, you may be noticing a new bar here below. That's our new flagship sponsor for the show, as well as for the LAFB Network, Sleeper. And the NFL season is here, which means you have a chance to 1,000x your cash on daily fantasy football. Football has never been more exciting than it is now, with players like C.J. Stroud, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Justin Jefferson of the like. Pick on stats for these stars like touchdowns, passing yards, receiving yards, fantasy points, and more for up to a 1,000x payout on Sleeper. Get your picks right, and you could win big. And use promo code UCLA LAFB, and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Well, Wayne, Thriller, always a pleasure. Bruin Nation, continue to be loud, be proud Bruins, and as always, like Will and I say, fours up forever.